Resources. We are now going to begin our virtual board meeting for the briefing meeting. It is now 10:06 a.m. again on August the 6th, 2020. First off, this meeting, as I mentioned, is a virtual meeting. It's going to be conducted electronically as approved by Utah Governor Gary Herbert through his Executive Order 2020-5. There's something that I need to read in accordance with this virtual meeting. So due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the ability of the virus to spread from person to person, Governor Gary Herbert has implemented a number of executive orders directed at controlling spread of the virus by minimizing face-to-face interactions. Public gatherings are strongly discouraged by the CDC, State of Utah, and local health departments since they facilitate face-to-face contact and pose an elevated risk for virus transmission. The Division of Water Resources and the Board of Water Resources Chair have determined that public gathering at board meetings presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who attend, and will conduct this meeting using a fully electronic format. This meeting format is authorized by recent amendment to the Utah Code and executive order by Governor Herbert, and will be temporarily used in place of the in-person public meetings that usually occurs. Anyone wishing to comment on the meeting's agenda topics or to observe the meeting may do so by logging on to the division's website at www.water.utah.gov/comments/ where instructions and links are provided. So with that, again, I welcome you to the meeting today. We'll start off with a roll call of the board members present, and we'll do this as we've done similar in past board meetings. I will read your name and area, and if you will answer if you're present or not present. Well, you won't answer if you're not present, but we'll start. Bear River, Charles Holmgren.
Mr. Chairman, I am present for the board meeting.
Thank you. Kyle Stevens for the Weber River area.
Here.
Juliet Tanner for Salt Lake area.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Provo River, Wayne Anderson.
Present.
Thank you. Green River, Randy Crozier. So Randy is not with us. If you can note that Randy Crozier is not with us at this time. Upper Colorado River, Norman Johnson.
Present.
Thank you. Lower Colorado River, Jim Lemon.
Present.
Thank you. With that, welcome to our board meeting. Director Todd Adams, I notice you're present. Would you please identify staff members and others who are present at this meeting?
Absolutely. And thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me add that long thing that you read was directed to us from the legislature. They changed some of the COVID rules at one of their last special sessions and have asked all boards to read that statement in conjunction with these virtual meetings and the COVID thing that we are in. So just help for the rest of the board members and folks listening, and that's why that happened. Let's do a roll call component. Go from there. We have a Ben Marett from our, I'll just do our staff members right now, and then we'll come back to some additional things there. Ben Marett, Candace Hoschenjager, Carmen McDonald, Jaqueline Pacheco, Joel Williams, Kim Wells, Lindsay Russell, Marisa Egbert, Rachel Shilton, Randy Staker, Russell Hadley, Shalane DiBernardi, Todd Stonley, Tom Cox. And then we have one individual additional calling in on the phone with the last two digits of 27, and I'm not sure who that is. If you are here, could you identify yourself?
It's an 828 area code.
Yes.
Ending in 27.
And their phone is on mute right now.
Right. So they'd need to
so
unmute.
You'll have to unmute with a *6.
Hi, this is Marcus Keller with Zions Public Finance.
Welcome, Marcus Keller. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm also going to be, I know Marty Bushman is out there. I don't know that he got the link, so I am emailing him the link right now. He is our legal counsel. He's on the YouTube component, but he's not on this call. So I'm going to, if it's okay with you, or actually, I'm just sending that to him. So he should be here shortly.
Great.
And with that, that's the roll call.
Okay, thank you very much, Director Adams. Next item on our agenda, and we have a full agenda today for both our briefing meeting and for the board meeting. So we'll try to keep it going as best we can. But just a few little housekeeping items on our both meetings, both the briefing meeting and the board meeting. If you can remember, if you're not speaking, please mute your microphones. And like they said, *6 will unmute a cell phone. Control D unmutes the computer. So if you can remember that, and then just go through the protocol that we will do in the board meeting for when motions are there. We'll first have staff on the different things they do. We'll have them give a presentation, and then we'll ask if there are any additional comments from the applicants. Then we'll have questions from the board members to the applicants or staff. Then we'll ask Randy Staker if there were any public comments. And then we will have a board discussion and seeing if we need any clarification or additional information. And then after all of that has taken place, then we will entertain a motion for approval or not approving, that type of thing. And we'll do it by roll call vote with this. Again, we'll do just like I did to start the meeting. We'll go through area by area and just indicate if you're present. So are there any questions on the logistics of when we get into the meeting, going through the different presentations? Does anyone have any questions on those logistics, the protocol? Okay, if not, let's go into the items that we have. And like I say, we have a lot of things today. We'll go through the minutes, will be our first item, the approval of the minutes. Does anyone have any comments or questions or things on the minutes? You've got the packet that came out. Did any of you have anything on the minutes that you would like noted? Any board members?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren. My only comment is that it was quite a workout reading the minutes and keeping straight with Scott McGadigan's comments about Colorado River Power was really hard to know whether I was coming or going, but I was amazed that the quality of minutes were really good, and I'd make a motion to approve them if that is in order.
Well, it will be in order in the main board meeting. Right now,
Okay.
We're just discussing them.
Okay, very good.
And I agree, these minutes were very detailed. Lindsay, good job. Okay, any other comments or things on the minutes? Okay, then the next thing that we will be going into our board meeting will be on the feasibility reports. And there's we only have one feasibility report this time. It's on Nibley Blacksmith 4th Irrigation Company project RE440. It's coming from the C&D fund. And Charles, this is your area, and the staff member is Russell. So Charles, would you like to give us a brief, or Russell, between you, a brief rundown on this?
All right, this is Russell, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Nibley Blacksmith Fork Irrigation Company, it's up in Nibley City. They serve about 3,100 acres of agricultural property, and they've got 181 homes, lawn and garden system on their system. Water comes from the Blacksmith Fork River. Okay, about 2,200 feet of their ditch is open earth and runs through backyards, through a residential area. They're very worried about that with all the kids in the area. And there's about 11 homes below the canal that could have some problems if the ditch ever broke. It's also got a lot of seepage in that area. and their access to maintaining the canal is very limited. And they've also got problems up their diversion on the Blacksmith Fork River. It's deteriorated. The gates are rusting. The stems on the gates are rusting out, and they'd like to just make the whole diversion. Oh, and the stop log in the river, they have to manually set the stop logs. It's kind of a dangerous situation, very hard to operate the system. So the company would like to pipe that 2,200 foot long section and replace the diversion gate system up on the river. Estimated cost is $820,000. They've got a $300,000 Water Smart grant, and staff recommends board authorized 53.9% of the project cost, up to $442,000, and the project be purchased at 0.15% interest over 15 years with annual payments of approximately $29,900. And where that interest rate comes from is a balanced weighted interest rate between the agricultural portion being repaid at 0% interest and the lawn and garden portion being repaid at 1.97% interest. And so the weighted average is 0.15% interest. And the applicants would also like to request a waiver from the board for the 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. watering restriction ordinance. They have no authority to tell the HOAs when they can water their lawns and gardens. And I think the company would like to tell you a little bit more, some of their other reasons. They've got some reasons. They would like to have that waived. That is staff's report.
Charles, what have you got to add to that?
Well, I think Russell did a very good job of summarizing the project. I had a comment, or I had a communication with the president of the irrigation company about their request for waiver of the requirement for not irrigating between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. And the portion that goes to homeowners is quite small. The way they irrigate is with run of the river, so to speak. They have no storage. So if they are not drawing water from the river during that time period, it's essentially water lost to them to the next priority water right holder downstream from them. So I think it's, and the other problem is if they divert that water to irrigators from the homeowners to comply with that part of it, they're going to have quite a complicated process in setting up their scheduling for the agricultural users that would normally water through that time period. So as I understand it presently, I would support their request on that specifically. Other than that, the irrigation canal goes through a jungle of trees, and as Russell stated, it's just unbelievable, their diversion structure. It's amazing that somebody hasn't been hurt in dropping stop logs. They have to jump down in the middle of the river and adjust their stream in that method. So it looks like both from a safety and efficiency point of view, it's a very good project. That's it.
Oh, thank you, Charles. Director Adams, could you enlighten us just a little bit? Is the waiver 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. a guideline, or is that how firm of a policy is that? Is that a guideline, or how firm is it?
Yeah, that's usually one of your conditions, but it is a guideline, and you're welcome to do. We've done it before, and you're welcome to do that again. I will talk maybe if it's okay, Mr. Chair, to answer a question a little bit different way. As a kid, I had a job working at one of those gravel pits that you see on the map. And there was times when you couldn't start early in the morning running a screening plant that we had because the canyon winds blew so hard that it would blow the mason sand sideways, and we weren't able to make mason sand at the gravel pit. And so I also wonder, Charles, if that was an issue that they discussed.
I don't know, Russell. I don't remember hearing that specifically. It was mostly just the scheduling problems and not being able to divert their full amount of water at those given hours.
Okay. Just some personal information from a young boy way back then.
Yeah, well, Blacksmith Fork Canyon can be like a hurricane coming down there in the morning. That's for sure.
Okay, any other questions or discussion on this?
This is Kyle. I had the same question relative to, the request for exemption from the watering times, and was going to ask the question why they can't include that, and you kind of explained that a little bit, but do they just, well, let me rephrase it this way. Could they put some language in their agreement with the HOAs that they strongly recommend and suggest? Maybe they already do that, but if they're not, could they include that in there, even though they're asking for an exemption because they don't have a way to enforce it? Could they ask for some verbiage to be put in whatever contractual arrangement they have to strongly encourage it?
This is Russell. I'd like the board to discuss this with them. I asked them if there was some way they could modify how they distribute their water, how they set up their watering schedule. Right now, they sort of treat the lawn and garden water the same as they do irrigation water. So they schedule them in a different way than is usual. So they have a strange way of how they schedule the HOAs. So you might want to ask them if there's something they could do and why they can't change it, why they feel they can't change it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and if I can, go ahead, Charles.
I did make that suggestion to Mr. Lishman that they educate their home and garden users.
This is Norman. Does the HOA not have any rules, regulations?
Yeah, well, I think the difference is this is an irrigation company providing water to some HOAs. So the company that you're dealing with doesn't deal directly with the actual water users. So I think this is a little bit different situation. And while it is something that you usually require, it's not something that we or you ever truly enforce. I mean, we ask cities to pass ordinances, but we just don't ever really follow up to make sure everything's going exactly the way they say. So it's really a board decision, however you feel like handling it today. But if you feel like an exemption is appropriate, you can offer that. As Russell said, it's a very small portion of this project. But I think it is worth having the discussion with the company.
Mr. Chair, can I one question? Just for Todd, I actually don't have a lot of heartburn about making the exemption. I would worry about kind of where does it go from there? But if it's a small amount, it seems like good reason. I've seen those winds whipping through, so I don't mind. But just to have an idea of how often we've done exemptions on this particular requirement. I mean, is it a handful of times?
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I would ask Shalane or Joel to answer that one, if that's all right.
Please.
Yes, I would say probably a handful of times. There have been even municipalities who don't have the storage capabilities. So yeah, it's not super uncommon to offer an exemption to someone who asks, just saying that, this would cause them a struggle. This would cause problems for how they operate their system. We have. Marisa actually texted me. She said, should I mention mine? If you want to, Marisa, you can. But this wouldn't be setting a precedent. This isn't something you've never done before. The board has offered this exemption before.
Okay, and I do want to hear Marisa's example, but just, I mean, from my standpoint, you know, it's like a safety issue. I just like the cost and the benefits of it. It just seems like, again, I'd like to encourage them to encourage the HOA to have those, but you know, from a safety aspect and from just getting it done, it doesn't really make sense to let that stand in the way. But Marisa, what, like, yeah, like a specific example would be nice.
Yeah, I've got it was actually a water company up above Colville. And so the water company was just drinking water. And while the houses apparently did have a spigot for their culinary water to use outside, almost all of them were on secondary. Well, the secondary was through an irrigation company. So the water company, their hands are tied. And so that wasn't a requirement. Now, whether or not they ask people to be more careful or something like that. The other issue too is if there's not reservoir storage.
Yes, that makes sense.
And I've lost a little track of whether or not the reservoir storage is the issue on this one. But when you've got multiple entities that make rules about watering, it gets tricky.
Well, and this is Blaine. From my perspective, having dealt mostly with irrigation companies, and several small communities do get water from the irrigation companies. When they're on a use or lose basis, it makes it awfully tough if there isn't storage. And this one doesn't appear to have storage. So I'm like Juliet. I think this is small enough. I personally think this one, it's nice to have the rule or the guidance that we have, but one size does not always fit all.
Mr. Chairman, this is Wayne. My question is, what kind of growth pressure is there on that area? And could this problem be expanded in the future?
Russell?
This is Russell. Yeah, there's homes being developed. Again, maybe ask the company about this. They really don't want to see their area turning into a lot of residential development. They'd like to keep it going as a farming community. The homes that are there now it's hard to say if they can expand the system out to new areas. It just depends on where the growth is coming. And to go back to Kyle's question, the company sells the water to the homeowners association. That is who the shareholders are. They have a special diversion for them. It goes to the HOA that runs a pump station, and it pressurizes it out to the lawn system. And the company, the irrigation company, doesn't seem to have much control over what the HOA does, and they don't know what their schedule is or exactly how. They don't even know what the rate is that they charge their customers in the HOA for the pumping. They came back with $30 a month is what they're charging for pumping, but they don't seem to get a lot of cooperation getting answers from the HOA. So maybe again, talk to them about that.
Okay. Thank you. In the interest of time, are there any other questions or discussions on this?
Hey, Mr. Chairman, this is Todd, and this might help answer Wayne's question. If you look on your map, Wayne, you can see mostly down in the river bottoms, there's a lot of infill that could happen. Those are all mostly large lots along the river bottom. And then once it comes to that highway, it becomes more of the town of Nibley, so to speak, rather than so more urban setting for a rural area, I guess, versus what's in the riverbed to the east. So anyway, hopefully that answers that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle, are you prepared to make a motion on this then?
This isn't mine. This is Charles.
Oh yeah, I moved forward. I was already up on the next section. Yes.
You're fast, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm moving right along. I moved along. Okay, so
I'll take,
Charles,
I will make the motion,
ready to
Mr.
make a
Chairman.
motion. Now, we will have a discussion on this, and I've been sitting here thinking, what is it about Russell that has all these exceptions and all these requests?
He gets all the fun projects.
He gets the fun ones, doesn't he? All the interesting ones. Okay, so we'll have a discussion with them, get their feedback, and then ultimately, Charles, if you'll make a motion on that. Let's move
Yes, sir.
along now to committal of funds. That's project RE 417 Peoa South Bench Canal and Irrigation Company out of the revolving construction fund. Kyle, this is in your area, and Jaqueline. And somebody, if I can just interject, there's a lot of background noise on mine. If you aren't speaking, if you can please mute your phone or your device.
This is Kyle. This is pretty straightforward. I'll let Jaqueline go ahead and explain what needs to be explained there.
Okay, so this project was authorized back in January of 2019. The purpose of this project is to replace their current canal system with PVC and HDPE pipe. And they will also construct a new fish-friendly screening structure and metering. The cost share and estimate have not changed since what was authorized. So it's $2,246,000, and the board share would be $1 million. Do you guys have any questions?
Kyle, what have you got you'd like to add?
The only question I was going to ask would be of the company, but maybe Jaqueline can answer it. And of course, they're not here for this. They won't be here for this particular part of it. What is the status of the energy sales? It's being power's being generated from the hydro part.
Sorry, Kyle, can you repeat that, please? I missed the last part of your question.
The status of the energy sales, does that just go to the company? And if they got that all secured as far as arrangements and agreements with Utah Power?
I think that would go to the company, but I haven't followed up with them specifically on that aspect. But we can ask them. They will be at the actual board meeting today at 1.
Oh, okay.
Okay, good. Okay, board members, any other questions on this one?
Mr. Chairman, this is Charles Holmgren. This isn't the area where there was some controversy about piping the system would impact people who are depending on leaky canals to irrigate their property.
Jaqueline, can you address that?
I don't think it is this project.
Okay, thank you. I just thought it's in the same county, and that's why I asked the question. I didn't really think it was that same one, but thank you.
Okay, so that one, Kyle, this one is your area, right, Kyle? You'll be able to make a motion on this?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving along, Ashley Irrigation Company. It's project RE 427. It's in Uintah County. This is Randy. Randy's not with us yet. It doesn't appear, but Jaqueline, this one's yours. If you can give us a rundown on this one, please.
Yeah, so this project was authorized in August of 2019. And the purpose of this project is to pipe approximately 2.4 miles of canal within and near Vernal City to reduce seepage, increase conveyance efficiencies, and improve safety. And similar to the other project, the cost estimate and sharing remain as authorized. The cost is $2,186,000, and the board share is $1 million.
Okay, looks pretty straightforward. Board members, any questions or discussion on this project?
This is Norman. Do they actually have the Water Smart grant in hand?
Yes, they do.
You need me to make a motion on this, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, if Randy doesn't come, if Norman, if you will make a motion on this.
Can do.
Okay, thank you. Okay, project 434 Salem City. This one is Wayne and Marisa.
Wayne, you want to knock it out of the park for a few minutes while I?
Well, it's fairly straightforward. They want to install 1,900 secondary water meters throughout the city in their service area, and the total cost is $2,100,000. We would be committing 72.8% of the cost, up to $1,530,000. And the indebtedness returned at 1% interest over 15 years. So that's basically the project. It's that kind of outlet. Salem City is outlined on the map to give you an idea. So it's like any other metering projects. They end up saving us a lot of water over the period of time, so that we can, and I think that's what Salem City's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, they do. I don't have the numbers necessarily, but they do have a laundry list of infrastructure, new infrastructure projects that would have to be done if they don't do this. And also, and I just want to give you a heads up. Salem City did send me one response that they got for their public comment, and is really long. It's mostly about a lot of the comments have been about, we were told when the system went in that the taxes wouldn't, that the assessments wouldn't be raised. And that was a long time ago. And we also received one in the office, and it was the same. But that's really all we've received. We don't usually get comments when people are fine with it.
Right. So Randy will be reading those comments into the record then when we get to that point in the board meeting. Is that right or not?
No, not those. No,
sorry.
Those are not public comments for the meeting. These are when the city puts out a notice that this is what we're bonding, and do you have any comment? You can submit it to Water Resources. No, and I'm surprised because Marisa got a couple when we did Riverton recently, and Pleasant Grove did a secondary irrigation bond, and both of those we got lots and lots of comments. But so only a few from Salem is really good. So I think it should be just fine. And they already have a bond closing scheduled for next week. So let's hope you guys commit it.
They have gotten in, if they don't have every single item in, some goes to Bill Prater, our bond counsel,
Our bond
some
attorney.
comes to us. But they have been working on all of the items, quite a bit of it. Almost, I would say, if not all of it, there might only one or two smaller things. It's a little more tricky on these secondary meters because the statute for funding requires an engineer and plans and a design. And the question is, well, how do you do that? Well, especially when it's a system that's already in place and they're retrofitting in the meters. They're going to have some sort of specs, and they're also going to have some sort of typicals of how the meter would be installed into the different possibilities of what's there. Weaver Basin is a really good example where they had meters in the front yard or meters in the backyard, and so they did supply information about the meters. The meters looks like it has a 20-year warranty, and then they did provide a page or two of typicals of what it will look like when they open up and put in the meter and how to install the meter. Even though it's their own staff that is going to be putting in the meter, they're not going through a contractor. I did provide that and specs, and that has been signed. Those are signed and sealed by a professional engineer.
Okay, good, thank you. Board members, any questions or discussion on this project?
This is Kyle. Just a curiosity question. What percentage of their meters in the city does this represent? Do you have any idea?
I think it represent basically 100% of their meters. They're not metered at this time.
I think they've got some metered already. I think this basically takes care of the rest of them. They are requiring new development to get their own meters in. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull up the project here.
Basically, the older part of the city has not been metered, and so they just want to bring everybody on board so that the whole city will be metered.
And I'm just going to pull up the app. Sorry.
That would be a good question to ask Kyle during the meeting.
And I've got the application here, and I can pull that up. And it also in the feasibility report. Unfortunately, my internet apparently is slow. I'm looking very quickly here. Okay. They have about 2,400 residential connections, 150 resident or commercial connections. The secondary system is almost 2,300, so 2,282. That's secondary, but residential secondary is 2,238. And as the number in my head was that they have about 300 or 400 already installed. I don't remember if it was because they did a kind of a trial or if it just was something that was going on slowly in a process. It seems like it's a concentrated area. I'm going to quickly try to pull up the report. Sorry, the feasibility report. Sorry, I didn't have those open.
Marisa, I think it's okay. I think if they want to know, they can ask at the board meeting. The city could provide that information. We could move on.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but we got a lot going on today.
We got a lot of stuff still to cover. Any other questions on this one? Okay, RE 436, Muddy Creek Irrigation Company. This is Norman, yours, and Jaqueline. Norman?
Go ahead, Jaqueline.
So this project was authorized in May of this year, and this will be the fourth project that the board has funded for Muddy Creek Irrigation Company. The purpose of this project, phase 3, is to pressurize the remainder of their irrigation system by installing approximately 7 miles of pipeline to deliver water to the east side of Muddy Creek Irrigation Company, which will also lower the water table and reduce salt loading. The cost estimate and sharing remain as authorized. The total cost is $5,583,000. They received a salinity control grant from the Bureau of Reclamation for $4,583,000, or 82.1% of the project, and the board share would be $850,000.
Norm, what have you got?
I don't have anything else to add to that. It's pretty straightforward, good project. Don't have anything else, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, does any board members have any questions or clarification on this one? If not, Norman, you'll be prepared to make a motion on this?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to RC 065, Whiterocks Irrigation Company. This is one of Randy's again. Ben, you've been taking the lead for staff on this. What have you got on this one, Ben?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, so Whiterocks Irrigation.
Oops, I skipped one. We'll come back to that in just a minute, Ben. I'm sorry, I skipped over one. Sevier Valley Canal Company. This is one in my area. Tom has been working on this one, so Tom, take her away.
The Three Creeks Dam is owned and operated by the Sevier Valley Canal Company. It's a small dam located up in Sevier County that can store about 1,000 acre-feet of water. even though it isn't at the top of the dam safety wish list, it's developed some problems over the year with this outlet. It has a corrugated metal pipe that's rusting through and leaking now. So the state engineer is requiring them to align that. So that's what they're doing. It's just a $130,000 project, and it is eligible for the dam safety grant fund. So we'll be providing 90% of the project cost as grant and 10% as a loan. So it'll be returned at 0% interest over 10 years with payments of $1,300. There will be additional dam safety items that will have to be taken care of in the future when there's more funding available.
Thanks, Tom. My understanding, this is just for an emergency type thing on it. That it, like Tom said, it's not at the top of their list, but this needs to be done. I'm personally familiar with this dam and this leaky culvert. I know that the elk love that culvert to leak because they like to drink right below it. So the elk are not in favor of this project, but it's a good project. So that's in my area. Does any board members have any questions on this one for Tom? If not, Jim, I've talked to Jim and he said he would be prepared to make a motion on this. And Tom, you were thinking just make the motion just as it's there, have the grant and the loan just worded just the same as it's written. Is that right?
Right. Just one motion is needed.
One motion. So Jim, you willing to do that still then?
Yes, I'll do it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Moving
And Blaine,
along.
sorry,
Yes.
Blaine, I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if you caught the chat. Marisa said, Tom's indicated that no one will be on representing the company. Since this is a dam safety project, they're not required to attend. So just so you're aware.
Okay. Thank you. I did not see that. So thank you. Okay. Now we're to RC065 Whiterocks Irrigation Company up in the Uintah Basin, and where Randy's not with us, Ben.
Yeah, hello again. So this one is very similar to Tom's. This project was not at the top of the dam safety list, but because of problems that they run into, they were bumped up there in order to avoid storage restrictions. They had some sediment coming out of their outlet structure, and so they're going to install a filter drain to kind of curb that. So this also dam safety project. It'll be a grant at 90%. And that about sums it up.
Okay, so it's for a filter drain system then, just collect the seepage down at the toe, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board on this project? Okay, so we need somebody to make a motion on this where if Randy is not with us.
I could jump in and make that motion if you'd like.
Okay, thank you. So Juliet will make that motion if Randy's not with us. Okay, thank you, Juliet. Okay, now moving on into our special items. And project RE437, which is American Fork City. This one has an authorization and a committal of funds. It's two wrapped up into one. This is Wayne's area, and Jaqueline is staff member on that. So Wayne, Jaqueline.
Go ahead, Jaqueline, and I'll back you up.
Okay, and if I can jump in real quick and just say that the reason for the authorization committal is kind of my fault, but we'll also blame it a little bit on COVID. This application came in right about the time everyone was moving to working from home and the time that I took over this job from Todd Stoneley. So they were hoping to be presented earlier in the summer, but we just didn't get it prepared, and they're in a hurry. They're ready to get going. So I said we would do our best to get authorization and committal in August so they could get going, and Jaqueline did it. So they've already been working on their requirements, and we'll be prepared to close on their bond before our October meeting. So that's why it's a big one. with both motions. Just wanted you to understand why.
Thank you. That's good information. Jaqueline?
Okay, so American Fork City provides culinary and secondary water to approximately 33,000 residents. The purpose of this project is to replace approximately 5.7 miles of old and undersized mainline pipes with new pipe with various diameters that will be connected to the, and also to develop a new well that will be connected to the city's culinary water system. And new culinary service connections and fire hydrants will also be installed within the project area. Currently, there's a lot of issues in the current system where there's a lot of breaks and leaks, and there is also a development moratorium in effect because they're not able to supply additional water. The estimate of this project is $25,900,000, and the board share is 85% or $22,015,000. Are there any questions?
Kyle, let's hear what you have, or excuse me, Wayne, let's hear what you have to say about it.
Well, you and I talked a little earlier today about it, and Todd brought up a point that I think is very helpful, and maybe the board members need to understand. At this time when taxes for the state are less than what they were anticipated and so forth, the state's going to be looking for as much money as they can to pull from any of the departments that they can. And if we have this large amount of money committed to go out to American Fork City to do this project, then that's something that they can't take away from us. So in essence, I realize that this is a lot of money, and it dips into our funds quite a bit, but in the long run, it is probably an advantage to us because of the situation we're in.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from the board?
Mr. Chair, I just have a, I guess a technical question. I actually think it's really excellent. I guess a comment too. I think it's actually really excellent to fund these types of infrastructure projects just generally, right? Because they kind of create economic stimulus into the future. But right now, this is a project that could get underway really quickly and have some money circulating in the economy really quickly, which is good. I think this is technical, so Shalane probably. I always get like the different loan funds, like what the right criteria and such are mixed up. Could some of this come from the city loan fund? Does it matter?
It could have come from the city water loan fund if we had much money in there. But
Okay.
there's not much money in the city water loan fund. And the C&D fund, while we have some large projects authorized in there, they aren't committed yet. And so the C&D fund is where we have the most amount of money right now. And so to take 22 million from it really isn't going to hurt anything at this point in time. So yes, we could have, but I think we like to save the city. Well, and it's not that we like to save, it's that because it's a much smaller fund and has fewer funds coming back into it. It's nice to be able to save that for like the Trenton Town projects and the others that tend to be smaller, on the smaller end of things. One thing, the City Water Loan Fund can also provide zero interest loans. So we like to do those for those smaller projects, smaller towns and cities that might not have the financial resources that someone like American Fork would have. So,
that's great. That's actually a perfect answer. Thank you. And I've forgotten about that interest rate kind of like that. I think it's wise to do it this way. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions on this or clarification?
Well, this is Kyle. We'll just make the same comment. I think it's we just want to keep in the back of our minds and not lose sight of the fact that while we tie all this money up in a, one large project, we shouldn't lose sight of the needs for some of the smaller cities around the state to make sure that we have funds available when they need it to be able to help them out as well.
Yeah, and that's my take too. I happen to represent a rural area, and when I see a huge chunk of funds going to something like this, that's always going to be a concern. We have another one that was just filed that's 33 million, and that's a topic for a different day and all that. And I do have a concern. We need to have a balance, if you will, and make sure that, but I think this is good timing. I think this is a good project is my take on it.
Mr. Chairman, this is Todd, and yes, when we saw this money, this request come in, these large amounts, I definitely had them look at our balances and project it into the future to see where we would be, to make sure that we didn't leave ourselves with a big hole or not be able to. But as of right now, the forecast looks positive. We don't know what the legislature, the budget, the economics will do. Juliet, maybe you, with your crystal ball, you can help us with that. But as of right now, everything looks like it will balance, and we will continue to have balances and be able to help others.
Okay, thank you, Director Adams. Any other discussion on this one? Wayne, are you prepared to make a motion on this one?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to the next one. This is, is this RL? It says RL 585. Yeah. And it's Powder Mountain WSID. It's a reauthorization and committal. So that's why it's under special items. And I visited with Kyle a little bit earlier on this one too. This one's another unique one. It sounds like too. We've seen this same entity before us not that long ago. But Kyle, if you want to take it away, this is yours and Ben's.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular project and the company, there's been a lot of moving parts and a lot of complications associated with it. And I would just compliment the staff for thinking outside of the box, if you will, and looking at the different ways and opportunities where we might be able to satisfy the concerns and the needs of that particular company in that particular area. So with that, I'll let Ben go ahead and explain.
Hello again, everybody. So yeah, just like Kyle alluded to, this project has gone on for a long time, or at least different parts of it. I could almost write a whole history on it, but what it basically boils down to is we have a water district that doesn't have any sources of water. They are receiving water from a private developer nearby who has a well. It's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship to both of them, that he provides them with water. But they are, because of the number of connections they have, they are required to have a water source and a redundant water source. So they have proposed a project which will give them at least one water source. Hopefully they'd like to develop a spring, rehabilitate a couple of booster pump stations, install a tank and a pipeline. The project is going to cost 1.9-ish million approximately, and that's the gist of it. I'll give more details and stuff in the board meeting, but I can answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, board members, any questions you'd like to ask on this one or discussion? Well, you'll probably get some questions and discussion in the actual board meeting, I'll bet, Ben.
Okay, we'll expect it.
Okay, good job. Thank you. Kyle, are you prepared when the time comes after the discussion and whatever comes down to make a motion on this one?
Yes, I will.
Okay, thank you. Okay, special item RE395. This is Burns Bench Irrigation Company, and this one is to add some funds, is what this one's about. This is in Randy's area. Jaqueline, can you give us a rundown on this one, please?
Yeah, so funds were committed for this project October of last year. And just a summary of the project. The purpose of this project is to install a radial gate and a diversion structure. An additional 1,300 feet of pipe, a 42-inch pipe, and 1,700 feet of 24-inch HDPE pipe. Since construction began, the project cost has increased due to delays and an increase in the material costs. So the project has increased by $40,000 from $667,000 to $707,000. And then if you look in your report, it'll give you the breakdown of the cost share. So with this project, they've received numerous grants. They have Water Smart grants and as well as other grants from entities around the area. And so they are asking for the board share to it's increasing from $189,000 to $212,000. Are there any questions?
So they want an additional $23,000 and basically amend the agreement.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the board on this one? Okay, if Randy isn't here, we need somebody that's willing to make a motion on this one.
This is
No,
Norman.
this is
I can
Kyle.
do
I'll
that.
do that. Or
I
can do that.
heard a couple come over. Was that Kyle? Did I hear? Or?
Yes.
Okay, so Kyle, you'll make a motion on this one. Okay, thank you. Okay, so next project is RE 421 West Cache Irrigation Company, and they need to add some funds. They want to add some funds to a project. Charles, this is your area, and Russell, take her away, Charles, and then go from there.
Okay, well, unless Russell's ready to go.
Yeah, if you want me to speak up on it. Okay,
Yes,
West Cache Irrigation Company. It's located, this project is located between Trenton and Newton. It's going to be piping 5.3 miles of the West Cache irrigation ditch with pressurized pipe and constructing 2 pump stations, one of those at the reservoir, and installing 4 new flow meters. Project was recently bid, and bids came in significantly higher than expected. Since funds were committed, an additional $200,000 grant from the Utah Department of Agriculture has been awarded to the project. Okay, the project cost estimate has increased by $759,000. The new cost total is $4,259,000. And as shown in the committed and proposed cost sharing, the board's cost share is proposed to go up to $2,260,000. The board originally committed 51% of the project cost, up to $1,785,000 at 1% interest. And now it is requested for the board commit an additional $475,000 and amend the purchase agreement to state the board will provide 53.1% of the project cost, up to $2,260,000, and the project be purchased at 1% interest over 30 years with annual payments of $87,600. And the reservoir, Cutler Reservoir, they're moving one of the pump stations to Cutler Reservoir. And does the board have any questions? That's staff's report.
Thank you, Charles. Let's start off with you. What have you got you'd like to add?
Well, this is a project that we looked at previously, and based on staff's report, we are possibly going to satisfy the request for extended years in term on the terms. The irrigation system looks like a good operation. Russell and I had some discussions about affordability for these folks in this area. It's very complicated presently. Russell and I had some discussion about the myriad of different classes of milk and what dairymen are receiving for their class 5 and 3 milks and stuff like that are quite profitable, whereas class 1 milk is not so great. And so it's a very complicated equation for those folks that are paying the bill back. But the project is a good one. And additionally, they received some UDAF money as well that helps them make the project more affordable for them. That's it.
Thank you, Charles. Board members, any questions or discussion on this project?
This is Kyle. Again, just a curiosity question, or maybe it's better asked in the next meeting, but what caused the increase in the cost?
Well, they got 3 bids, and they were all quite high. I think it was just estimated a little low. Maybe contractors are just not as hungry as you'd think they are, but just looked like everything was a bit higher than what was originally estimated.
Okay.
Yeah, to add to Russell, I don't know how the rest of the state is, but this northern end of the state is just like an ant bed with activity up here. It's just going crazy with development, and trying to get a contractor is really tough.
Okay, any other questions, board? If not, Charles, are you make a motion on that one?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I will.
Thank you. Okay, next project, RE 401. It's West Porterville Irrigation Company, and this proposal is requesting a modification of terms. This is in Weber County. So, Kyle, this is yours, and Ben. Kyle.
Hey, it's actually in Morgan County, but I'll let Ben go ahead and explain.
Okay.
We actually had some last minute requests for changes, and so I recommended to the Canal company this morning that they withdraw the project, and they agreed that would probably be what they want to do. So if we could just withdraw this agenda item, that would be best, I think.
Yeah, not actually withdraw the project, just table it until next meeting.
Table it off today's agenda.
That's right.
Yeah.
So is that what they're going to do for sure then?
Yeah.
Okay. So this one, will they be there in person to request this, or?
I don't think they need to be. I think Ben's had discussion with them, and they just wanted to change enough today that we aren't prepared to deal with at today's meeting. There wouldn't have been notice for those changes. So I think it's just appropriate to postpone it for a couple months.
Okay, super, great. We'll just have that one tabled then. Continuing through the board meeting agenda in a hurry. New applications, doesn't look like there were any. Planning report. We'll have a state water plan update from Rachel. Lake Powell pipeline report, we'll have a report from Joel. Bear River development report, we'll have an update from Marisa. Director's report we'll have from Director Todd. So that will be the main board meeting agenda, which is item 2 on our briefing agenda. So let's move to item 3 on our briefing agenda, information to the board. Director Adams, take her away.
Okay, first and foremost, maybe we talked a little bit about funding and those kind of things. Maybe we ought to have Joel status of funds update for us. Joel, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. If we flip to the beginning of the board folder, we have the status of funds report. I'm just scrolling back up to that. It's right after the agenda. So page 1 actually of the board folder. We start off with the revolving construction fund. And this is one that the funds that come into this fund essentially grows due to the repayments coming back in from projects The only new money that comes into this fund each year would be the dam safety funds, where $3.8 million is transferred from the C&D fund into the revolving construction fund for
Put the
dam
dogs out.
safety. But the balance in this fund, as you can see, if we go ahead with the projects as committed and authorized and contracted, that the balance is down to about, well, a negative balance, I guess we can see at the end there. And so that is why we've started to divert some of the projects that perhaps could have come out of the revolving construction fund into the C&D fund. And we will continue to do that until this balance is allowed to recover a little bit. And so that's the story on the revolving construction fund. It's doing its job of funding these irrigation and private water company projects that are less than $1 million. And, this fund is required to have a 0% interest rate. And so that's the status on the revolving fund. If we go to the next one, it is the city's water loan fund. And Juliet had a good question earlier in the meeting about American Fork. If say, could some of that money come from city water loan fund? And Shalane gave a good answer. One of the things to point out about city water loan fund is it is our slowest growing fund because it does not ever get any new money. It only grows from repayments, and it tends to be the smallest fund because there are fewer projects that come out of this. It's a smaller amount, and so it grows and regenerates more slowly. And one of the things that Shalane mentioned was this one has a very flexible interest rate. It can go down to 0% interest, and so we do sometimes try to leave this money here in case there is a small city or town that comes to the board where based on affordability, they could really use a low interest rate, like a 0% interest rate, where this fund would allow them to do that. So the balance right now, there is about $5 million a balance in there. We could entertain additional projects out of this fund, and that's based on the applications as they come in. If we see one that seems like a good candidate for this fund, we would recommend that to the board. But I think we're in pretty good shape in this fund, but it is good to keep in mind that there is about $5 million in there. If you're visiting with any applicants and you as a board member feel like their project would be a good fit for that fund, they do need to be a municipality, either a city or a town, to be able to use that fund. The next one, going down to page 3, is the Conservation and Development Fund. And this is the largest fund. It gets quite a bit of sales tax money each year. Excess of $20 million would come into this fund. Some of that goes out to the $3.8 million goes out of this into the revolving construction fund for dam safety projects. But we do get a healthy influx of new money into this fund each year, in addition to the repayments that come back into this fund. So as you can see up at the top, at the beginning of the fiscal year, we anticipated approximately $89 million of funding available for projects this year. So quite a bit of money. And part of the reason why when a large project like American Fork City comes in at $22 million, we think, yep, we can do that. Normally the balance in this fund isn't quite that high, but we have had, maybe perhaps you could say, a lack of larger projects over the last several years, and so those funds have grown year to year, and so we do have the ability to fund a few large projects here, and so it's good to see that money go into use. We do also, as you look down at the projects committed, there's approximately $32 million in projects that have already been committed, and so if we were to assume those were to go forward, then the balance would be more like $56 million. And then you look down, okay, projects authorized, and a few of those are ones that have been in there for a while, and we're working with those sponsors to determine, is this still a viable project? Do you still want to be on the board's authorized list, or is this project no longer going to move forward? One of those projects is that large Uintah Water Conservancy District project, RE316, with a price tag of $36 million. that was intended for the enclosure of the Steinecker Service Canal. It'd be nice maybe if Randy was on, if we could hear from Randy Crozier, if maybe a status update on that, when we would typically check with the Uintah Water Conservancy District on that. The answer was usually yes, this is going to happen. I know they have done a phase 1 and partially, I believe, partial completion of phase 2 with funds other than the board's funds, being able to use some of their own district funds for that, but knowing that there are larger phases ahead, they wanted to have that application on the board's files, but we will check with them and determine if that's still the case. So as I said, there is a pretty healthy balance. If every single one of those authorized projects were to go forward, you can see that there is a negative balance if everything was to go forward. But we feel comfortable knowing that with that large influx of money that comes into this fund each year, that we have the ability to fund all of these projects and more. So that's kind of an update on the status of funds. I feel like we're in really good shape, especially we like seeing large agendas like we have today, because that means the board these funds are doing what they were intended to do, to build water projects in the state. And we like seeing healthy agendas like this and money going out the door and eventually coming back to us through repayments. So that's the status of funds report. Any questions?
This is Kyle. Question for either you, Joel, or Todd. Where I sit on the Community Impact Board, by the way, they're meeting today at the same time, and so I opted to step away from that one. Is there any coordination that ever takes place between Board of Water Resources and Community Impact Board? Because I see from time to time a lot of requests that come in from them to the Community Impact Board from cities for city water loan projects and so on. So my question is there ever any communication between the two entities relative to that? Because there is a lot of interaction with drinking water. Anyway.
Interesting you should ask that, Mr. Chairman. It's all right. Interesting you should ask that. We actually do have a group that we get together. It's called the Water Development Coordinating Council. And we meet together with CIB, Drinking Water and Water Quality. And we have just scheduled a meeting to coordinate that. Oh, and also we invite the state, well, this is a legislative component. And we meet with the state treasurer also, so we can continue to coordinate these types of projects. Are there similar things going on with each board? We don't want people shopping around, but we want to help folks. So the answer is yes, we do coordinate that. Kyle, I have to admit, with COVID, with the new job, with an earthquake, with a few other things, we're a little slow in getting this going, but we have got it scheduled. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just kind of a heads up for the board. I don't know if it's the Pied Piper or not, but NRCS came up into our area about 3 weeks ago, and Bear River Canal Company and Blue Creek Irrigation are looking at PL 566, I believe, grants from NRCS, and at least Bear River Canal Company is looking at doing possibly as much as a $25 million project in the next 2 years, and NRCS would fund 75% of that. So Bear River Canal Company will likely be coming to the board to request some money to make up that deficit of the 25% that isn't grant money from NRCS. And Blue Creek is talking to NRCS as well. I don't know how positive their project was looking to NRCS, but NRCS was very promising from Bear River Canal Company's point of view.
Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, can I ask a clarifying question for Charles? And Charles, when you're talking about Blue Creek, are they talking about the dam safety issue, or are they talking about canal improvements or other?
They are primarily talking about canal improvements and not the dam safety project. But I spoke to them yesterday, and they're talking about actually increasing the capacity of the reservoir. And I don't know how much pie in the sky that is, but they are looking at two aspects, both dam safety and improvement to their delivery system and enlargement of the reservoir.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, why don't you continue on with other information you may have, Director?
Okay, that, maybe that'll that's a good segue into our dam safety funding and grants and those things. It's time for us to start meeting with the Governor's Office of Management Budget and look at new building block requests. As you know, we have submitted building block requests for additional appropriations for money for dam safety concerns because of the increased cost, the number of dams on the high hazard component to our funds. Gosh, if we do the $3.8 million a year for the next whatever, it's going to take an awfully long time, 60, 70 years, 100 years to get up through all those high hazard dams. We are talking right now about putting in a building block request for additional appropriation, and it's not a good year to be doing that. I know and understand it with the economics. We still feel like it's a good thing to do, but we're going to focus it on to the next, 3, 4, 5 dams that are out there to be more specific than an ongoing request forever and ever that may fill long-term or too long-term. And so we'll see where it goes, with the caveat that I don't know, we'll just have to see. So just an FYI on that. And another component that our folks are working on very heavily right now is our water banking and the water marketing grant that we have from the Bureau. We'll continue to work on things for procedures for the board because it won't be too long and we'll probably start seeing some of those projects come in, and we'll need to make sure we all are prepared for those things. And so Candace and her staff and some of our staff at the office are working on that right now. Just that's a quick update for you.
Thank you. And I would like to, on both of those last things you've mentioned, Todd, just give a little input on that dam safety. It's really key that we keep the funding going on that with those high hazard dams, and funding is tight, particularly in a year like this. But I would encourage each of the board members to contact your local legislative folks and try to talk to them about the importance of the funding for dams and where we're at with our status. I would encourage you to encourage them to support this building block request for dams. As far as the water banking, that was a big thing with the legislature this past year in the water arena, and the Division of Water Resources is a key cog, a key player in this effort. And so I appreciate the work that the staff is doing on that. And I don't know, Director Todd, do you need anything more from us? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's a very high priority. I think that at some point in the near future, we're going to get our first application. And do we have the procedures in place to handle with it? Or are we ready for it? Or what, as a board, what would you like from us on this?
I'm gonna say we're working on it. We're not quite ready, but I'm gonna ask Candace to help me with that. She's been working on it more on a day-to-day than I have. So Candace, if you would, please.
Sure, thank you. And I appreciate the question, Mr. Chairman. We are currently working with staff and to develop kind of like what the templates is for the board for the application process. So that will be coming to your review hopefully by the next board meeting, something for you to look over. In addition, the other element that we're working on is within SB 26, there was the ability for the board to charge for an application fee for these water banking applications. And so we need to get an estimate together on what we think that application fee should be based on the time it takes for staff to review them and provide information to you. So those are a big kind of next steps, and definitely we'll get drafts over to you to hopefully by the next board meeting and to get your input and feedback. Whether it's good or bad, I think one of the benefits I guess we have right now is some of these applications will take a while for folks to develop. So I don't see that we're going to have applications by our next board meeting. So I think we're still ahead of the game, but we definitely need to get some products in front of you guys to start reviewing and getting feedback so we can finalize them so that we're prepared for when we do get applications.
Thank you. I don't know about the rest of the board members, but I know that myself, if we get an application, I'm a little bit nervous on what is our protocol and how do we respond. So I appreciate it, and I would really appreciate by the next board meeting if we could have something along that line. I for one, I don't know. Rest of the board members, what do you think?
This is Kyle. I would agree, and I would ask the question. Candace, do you have a sense for what type of interest is out there for this type of approach?
Yes, thank you, Kyle and Mr. Chairman, if I can respond back to Kyle. We definitely have 3 active pilot projects that we are working on that are part of the Water Smart grant that we were awarded. That's in Cache Valley, Snyderville Basin area, as well as the Price River area. That being said, those may not be the first ones that come across our door. There are probably some more simple water bank applications that may come before those. One of those we're anticipating by next year, one of the pilot project areas that we would see an application. We are currently hired Clyde Snow to help us be our project manager for the BOR Water Smart grant and helping us to develop a statewide water marketing strategy. And so they're currently working through all those discussions with the pilot project areas to get that information. But I have had some discussions that there probably are some simpler water banks that we might see before even those pilot project areas. So definitely getting these protocols in place, as definitely by the end of the year, if we could get your guys' approval, I think that would be beneficial for the whole water community as they are interested in this.
Thank you, Candace. Other board members, any other questions or input?
Candace, this is Wayne. If there's anything that I can do to try and help in this situation, I personally have some water that I'd be interested in banking myself. So I don't know if there would be any value there or not, but I'm just indicating that I can offer myself to try and help wherever I can to see if we can put something together then.
Great. Yeah, maybe Emily and I can reach out to you and understand a little bit more of your interest and what you're thinking and potential other interest in the area.
Okay.
Great.
Good. Well, appreciate staff's efforts on that. Backtracking just a little bit, Director Todd, this one's for you. Going back to the dam safety, what can we as a board do to help support that effort, or what are your thoughts there?
At the moment, we're just preparing the documents to go into to the Governor's Office of Management Budget. ultimately they get prioritized and we'll go from there. You know, they'll still have to see where the budget is. I know that there is a special session scheduled for later this month. I believe it's the 20th, you know, and we're going to learn a lot more about whether building block requests and if they'll be allowed, if we're going to even have any, or if it's going to be a retraction component of economics and budgets. So, you know, I will definitely reach out and let you know when and if, but right now we're just in the preliminary stages and thought we'd let you know what we would be doing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Is there any other information?
Yes. Let me do just a couple more things if you can, if that's all right.
Please.
And maybe I'll just, budget wise, we had our budget cut about 7.5%, 8%, 7 to 8%, whatever it was, about $400,000 in our operation component, and we're working through that. We're okay. We'll continue to work, but we did have one position cut. We are working to get that. Not that it's going to get restored, but find a place for that individual in our office. We think we've got that worked out, but we'll continue to working on the things that we're working on, which are, you know, water banking. Candace is herding the cats with a water loss control group for executive water subgroup. We're working on some canal issues, so we, as you're aware, and we'll have a staff report later this afternoon on Lake Powell Pipeline and the state water. We are getting some great things done. It's just taking a lot longer than you ever expect. So, you know, maybe I'll give a quick climate report, and if I do this now, you won't have to listen to me at the end of another board meeting. But climate-wise, we're hot, we're dry. Our reservoir storage capacity is about 76% statewide. Now, with that said, I know in your neck of the woods, Blaine, on the Sevier, we have
26%.
Yeah, they're at 24.
Our big reservoir is 26%.
Yeah, 24, 26%. We're in a world of hurt. August, I hate to say it, August is Water Resources Month for precipitation, and so far we are not doing so well. But, you know, water rights didn't do very well for July. So precipitation in the month of July was about 40% of average. So we'll hopefully have the monsoons come in. But man, these high pressures have been sitting up, causing some issues, and as well as soil moisture is way low. That fire that started in the headwaters of the Provo was a real high elevation fire, and that's scary if things are drying out that much. So we continue to work through the COVID issues. We are still required to keep the office open, and we have at least 2 staff members in the office at all times. I'm very excited to say, and as we check in with managers and staff, that the managers and staff are doing an awesome job in getting the work done and leading the groups, the troops and the staff through all of this. They're doing it. They're doing an awesome job. So kudos to staff and getting the work done for the board projects and for all the many other things that we're working on. So with that, the only other thing that I had that you and I discussed is the next couple meetings, and in light of COVID and Mr. Chairman, I will let the board decide what you all want to do.
Okay, our next meeting is actually scheduled for October, and that was the meeting that we were going to have down in St. George, and it's scheduled for October the 8th, a Thursday, and the Washington County Water Conservancy District was going to plan a little tour type thing on that particular board meeting. So in light of the COVID, like Director Adams said, I visited with board member Jim, and that's his area down there and whatnot. It's hard to know what 2 months is going to bring. I actually personally thought we would be meeting in person before now. I'm not sure we will. I guess my thoughts is I've talked to Director Adams and with Jim, have another, for right now, schedule another virtual meeting for our October 8th meeting. And I still would like to have kind of a little tour with the Conservancy District down there. I'm wondering if they could do a little virtual presentation as part of our virtual meeting. And I visited with Director Adams about that. I visited with Jim, where that's his area, about that. Director Adams, Jim, what's your input and your feelings on that we've talked about?
So, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I did have a conversation with their general manager down there, and he is willing to do that, make a presentation, to whether it's a virtual flyover or what, we don't know for sure yet, but they are willing to host you virtually, I guess is the best way to put it, and do a presentation on the pipeline, the needs, things going on in their area down there. So if you'd like to do that, that's an option.
Jim, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that'd be the best thing to do. At the moment, it looks more like it'd need to be virtual than not. And if we wait till the last second to tell them, they wouldn't be able to be prepared. So I think it'd be better to go with the virtual.
I'm just pointing out that December in St. George, I mean, it's probably wishful thinking that COVID is going to be at a place where we can meet in person. However, I'm just pointing out that December in St. George is not. just pointing it out.
Just saying.
It's not like Cache Valley.
Well, we'll come to the December in just a minute, which is tied in and not. But any other board members, any problem with doing our October meeting? Let's wrap that one up first. Any problem with virtual meeting in October and trying to have a little virtual tour as part of that meeting? Anybody have any heartburn, Kyle?
It's fine. It's fine by me.
Wayne's good. Kyle?
I think given the circumstances, that's probably a good way to go. Like you, I thought we would have been able to meet face-to-face before now, but it would be interesting to get a visual picture of what's going on down there rather than just verbal discussion.
This is Norman. I think it'd be fun to be a virtual tour just so we could see if Kyle can be a virtual chairman for a year.
There you go.
You know, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to ask if it's okay, but I'm going to respond to Norman. Norm, I was teasing Blaine. I said, did his chairmanship really happen if it was done virtually?
Yeah, seems like a dream, doesn't it?
Might call for 2 years.
That's up to you to decide. You all.
Board meeting in October, October the 8th, Thursday the 8th. Let's plan on that being a virtual meeting, and let's follow up, and Jim with the Conservancy District down there, and try to have a little virtual tour from them as part of that meeting. And if our agenda is as full as it is today, you know, just have to play it by ear a little bit, I guess, the length of the presentation or whatnot. But we don't want a 2-hour tour, I don't think, as part of our meeting. But, you know, try to see what agenda will be and have them hour, whatever it is. So let's plan on that. Let's go to our December meeting now. And Juliet's suggestion of board meeting in St. George in December does sound attractive. One small complication with that is historically we've always had our December board meeting be the Christmas gathering of all of the staff. And I'm not sure that the budget would allow all of staff to go to St. George. I don't know, what about it, Director
Oh,
Adams?
Yeah,
Will they
maybe
foot the
the
bill?
director would personally, maybe in the generousness of the director, he would personally cover that.
He's smiling.
Wow.
Oh, thank you so much. Man, I should have never said what I said about Blaine. The board members are definitely sticking up for him. So I think we have already reserved a place. We've done that a while ago. I could be wrong. I do know that there may be an issue with having 2 virtual meetings at the department on that day. They've done that before, but I do know that that was brought up if we held a in-person meeting. So which typically we have done. It's not typical times. So, you know, this is a hard one to make a decision on. You know, I guess corn dogs for everybody. I don't know.
Yay.
Well, our meeting for December is scheduled on December 3rd, but if there is a potential conflict with that, we have enough time. We could reschedule that meeting, couldn't we?
Okay, I just see the note from Lindsay. It's reserved already, but we've got a room at the Capitol that's large enough to accommodate social distancing. The only problem is right now the Capitol is closed. So I don't know under the rules that we have whether the Capitol is even open to do that. So let's keep it on the 3rd as of right now, and we'll know hopefully more in October.
Okay, so the December one we'll put on hold, and we can, as Juliet said, we can always hope that we can all go to St. George, I guess. But we'll wait and see.
In our dreams.
In our dreams, yeah. Well, that sometimes virtual things seem like a dream, don't they? Okay, anything else, Director, from your end?
Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I've taken too much time. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Okay, do any of the board members have anything additional, any other items that you'd like to discuss right now?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Wayne. In our afternoon meeting, I plan on being in on the discussions for everything that's going to take a motion by the group. But when we get to the reports and so forth, I would like to request the opportunity to bow out of the meeting so that I can participate with my grandchildren.
Okay, so when that time comes, would you just, that would be right after we have the last report on special items where we say that RE 401 has asked to not have it heard then? Would that be the time, or is that what you're thinking, Wayne?
Yes.
So if right then, if you could just come in and just mention that you are leaving the meeting at that point.
I can do that. Yep.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and that's fine. Wayne, I'll probably want to follow up with you to let you know the status of the state water plan and give you an update, because we will be asking the board members to review the state water plan, and I'll call you and to chat with you about that.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that very much.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else from any of the board or any of staff that we need to cover? Okay, the actual board meeting then is set to start at 1 o'clock. If you can either stay on the line right now, I think, Carmen, or if you can go off and then come back in. If you come back in, try to come in 15 or 20 minutes early just to make sure that you can get in. Does that work, Carmen or Shalene? If they want to, if everybody wants to log on now, can they get back in?
Yes, yep, the same link. You'll just come right back in 10, 15 minutes in advance, please, so we can make sure everyone can connect.
Okay.
And because we'll have a lot of people logging on and wanting entry, or deny, which I've gotten good at. Apparently I denied Jim Lemon. I apologize, Jim. It said unknown.
You're keeping a low profile, Jim, if you're unknown. Well, with that, if there's no further items to discuss, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, Mr. Chairman, by Charles Holmgren.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn by Charles. Do I have a second on that?
Second, Kyle Stevens.
Kyle Stevens, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well,
Aye.
I got to do this. Let's have a roll call. I got
Sorry.
ahead of myself. Okay, so we have a motion that was seconded to adjourn. Do we need the roll call to adjourn?
Probably
I
not.
don't think you do, but I don't think it's debatable, but it probably wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so Charles Holmgren, how do you vote?
Aye.
Kyle Stevens, how do you vote?
Aye.
Juliet Tenner, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne Anderson, how do you vote?
Aye.
Norman Johnson, how do you vote?
Absolutely aye.
Jim Lemon, how do you vote?
Aye.
Okay, Randy Crozier, are you there yet? No, Randy. We've had a motion. We voted on it. The voting is unanimous with the exception of Randy Crozier, who is not in attendance. So motion adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your participation this morning. We'll reconvene for the 1 o'clock board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you all.